Here's my audience.
Okay, hi again everybody. Today I'm going to be talking to you about gluten and what it's like to maintain a gluten-free lifestyle. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, what is gluten? Where does it come from? Is it a food? What is this? What is this thing? Well, gluten is a mixture of proteins that's found in wheat, barley, and rye. Some common foods that have gluten in them are bread, beer, pizza, pastas, cookies, pastries, cakes, basically anything that tastes good. But there's also some foods that you might not think have gluten in them, but they actually do. For instance, soy sauce, unfortunately ice cream, candy like licorice, and even some cereals like cornflakes. Now, when I was 19, I started to develop a skin rash on my elbows and knees that really affected me, and I didn't know what it was. So after visiting a dermatologist, he informed me that I had celiac disease. Now, most people in the world can ingest gluten products without any issues. However, if you have celiac disease, your body doesn't break it down correctly. Celiac disease is a genetic intolerance to gluten, and it ends up affecting your small intestine if it's left untreated after a while. Some other symptoms of celiac disease can be joint pain, arthritis, early onset osteoporosis, and like I said before, a skin rash called dermatitis. Now, there are two ways that you can treat celiac disease. You can take a medication called dapsone and eat whatever you'd like, or you can maintain a gluten-free lifestyle. Well, after listing all the different types of foods that you can't eat, it seems like, great, I'll just take the medicine and deal with just taking the medication. And that's what I did for the first few years. However, after some careful research, I ended up finding out that dapsone, the medication that I was taking, was very harmful to my liver, my red blood cell count, and ended up having a bunch of different side effects as well. So I decided to make the switch to a gluten-free lifestyle, and I've been really happy ever since. Now, gluten awareness and knowledge has grown significantly over the past few years. And when going out to restaurants, it was always a real issue whether or not they were using gluten products in their foods. Is there breadcrumbs in this? Are you sure there's not soy sauce in that? And however, these days, restaurants actually have gluten-free menus, and they're starting to recognize that this is a bigger issue. So it's great that they're doing that. Also, some food manufacturers have come up with delicious different products that are gluten-free. For instance, this gluten-free flour mix is excellent. Some cereals as well, even gluten-free pasta. And just recently, my mother actually bought me a bread machine that has a gluten-free option on it. So you can take one of these bread mixes, follow the directions, and bada bing, you come up with a great gluten-free bread that actually tastes really great. Maybe later you guys would like to try some. Now, when you're living a gluten-free lifestyle, you get used to checking labels, calling manufacturers, and finding out whether or not there is gluten involved. Now, food isn't necessarily the only thing you need to be worried about. Pharmaceutical companies also use gluten as a binder in some of their medications. So you need to make sure you ask your pharmacist or physician if there are gluten found in that as well. Now, according to celiac.com, 3 million Americans suffer from celiac disease. So that's 1 in every 133 people. Gluten is also classified by the United States Drug Administration as generally safe. So it's not necessarily listed on all the labels. So that can be very tricky when you're at the grocery store shopping. But in a world that we live in these days, where everybody's looking for the quick fix, a pill to regulate celiac disease, if you just live a gluten-free lifestyle, you can eliminate all those things, and I've been very happy ever since. Thank you very much for listening. Anybody have any questions?
Wow.
Wow, explain it well.
Now, what happens if you eat gluten food?
Well, what ends up happening, if I ingest even the smallest amount of gluten, I may not necessarily experience a rash right away on my elbows, but over the next few days, I'll notice some blistering and some irritation of my skin. It can be very uncomfortable, and so I try to really, really watch what I'm eating and make sure that there's no gluten in any of my diet.
How careful do you have to be? Like, how much gluten can you take? Like, if you were to take a piece of your gluten-free bread and stick it in our toaster and toast it along in our normal toaster, is that an issue? If you get it contaminated with a little bit, is that a big issue?
That's a great question. It's actually, if you're really trying to live a gluten-free lifestyle, you need to have your own set of silverware, pans, toasters, basically everything involved with all the food products. But it's been great for me because my family is actually, most of them are living a low-carb diet, so that's not necessarily the same thing, but it eliminates a lot of the bread products that can be harmful for me. So that's actually a great question. Any others?
So, do your joints hurt at all because you don't get enough gluten, or do you have to do anything special for your joints?
No, as long as I maintain a gluten-free diet. Now, let's say if I just ingested a bunch of gluten, I might experience those harmful symptoms. Everybody's different. Some people are affected more than others. I luckily don't have that serious of a case to where my entire body isn't covered in a rash or my joints are hurting to the point where I have to stay home or anything like that. But it is serious enough to where I have to completely eliminate gluten from my diet.
So which one of those gluten products are your favorite? Gluten-free products are your favorites?
Well, I really love these crackers here. They taste great, and you can't even tell that they don't have any gluten in them. And after a while, you start to get used to these foods, and you start to enjoy them. In the beginning, I felt like the gluten-free bread actually tasted a lot like sand, but my taste buds have really responded to it, and you just make sure you put a lot of butter on it and some cheese and a bunch of jelly. But other than that, it's really not that difficult, and I plan on living the rest of my life this way. So thank you all very much for listening, and glad to share my gluten-free life with you.